Good morning and welcome to another great edition of Money Truth Moments here Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. I'm here with the one, the only, the Money Whisperer, Judy Copenbarger. How you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Carlos?
Hey, doing great. Fantastic, beautiful morning, nice and sunny. I'm ready to hit the road. How about you?
Same. Let's go.
All right. Folks, thank you for joining us this morning. We've been talking about married couples and money. Very heavy subject during the last couple of weeks. If you haven't been following us or you're just new to the show, please follow some of the other, follow our stream, number one. Number two is also go back and look at some of the previous shows because there's been a lot of great discussions about decisions, who should make those decisions as far as a marriage. Judy has shared some really good best practices also when you're looking for planning. And today we're on the subject, again, talking about married couples and money, but we're going to be focusing on navigating money challenges of marriage. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. So what do you say we get started?
I'm ready. I'm
sure you can share a lot with us with some of these money challenges, specifically in marriage. Yeah. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. Communication is so important about money and anything else, but particularly here, we're discussing money. So you've got to have a conversation. You're coming into a marriage with different attitudes, different values, different experiences about money, how money was handled, what the mistakes were, what the benefits were, and you're trying to merge all that. And we don't really grow up always with a conversation, a way to have a conversation around money. So if you aren't having healthy, deep conversations about money in a marriage, that's where the conflict can definitely happen. And marital disharmony can definitely happen. And really, there's three areas that I see the most challenges for couples in money. It's the earning of the money, the saving of the money, and then the management of it. And there are a lot of other things that we do around our money and our assets. But those are the three areas that really can be the most trying and bring the most disharmony in a couple.
So let's break that down a little bit even further. So when we're talking about earning, what's a good best practice? Let's say, but marriages are a little bit different because some spouses may be a stay-home mom, stay-home dad. The other spouse may be the one that's working. Some of them in both cases are working. So how do we kind of navigate that a little bit, to find that medium? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Great question. And it comes up a lot. And you actually said it. You actually said it and may not be aware that you said it. One spouse is working, the other's not working. The first thing I want to be really clear about is everybody in a marriage is working. You're either working inside the home or outside the home. Right. And I don't mean you have a desk, like COVID, you're working from home. It's like you're working in the home. It takes a lot to run a house and pay the bills on time and get the kids where they need to go and raise a family. It takes a lot. So everybody's working. If you're in a relationship, you're working. But some work brings money in from the outside and some doesn't. And sometimes that's temporary and sometimes that's permanent. So everybody's working. And if everybody has the attitude that there's work to do, and you want to participate. It's not a 50-50 thing. It's a 100-100 thing for successful marriages. And if you've had an unsuccessful marriage, you probably could look back and say, yeah, we weren't both giving 100%. We were both giving 50 or 47 or 23, right? But I think that's the first thing. So open communication, willing to try to outgive the other, willing to really look at what's not working when it comes to money and money management. But in particular, the part that comes up that is so conflicting about earning money is, well, you don't earn enough. You need to earn more. You need to get a second job. You need a side hustle. Why aren't you working? Right? Yeah. Well, he or she is working at home. There's plenty to do. It's not a bonbon, lay around, watch TV kind of a life with little ones, right? And people that don't have children don't get that. People that do are like, oh yeah, It's a lot. And some seasons are more demanding than others. When you have a baby, that first little season is just so physically demanding. You're up feeding, you're up changing, they stay where you put them for a while and then they don't. You're chasing them. It's physically demanding. And then you get into the early school years where it's mentally demanding. You're helping them learn. They're learning how to read. They're learning how to do the math skills. They're learning how to reason. They're reading something and making it mean something. And it's mentally exhausting. If you're really engaged with them and helping them learn, it's mental. Later, it's logistical. It's like, how are we going to get them to all of their activities on time and home on time and homework done and fed, and to bed so they can rest. And then Saturday morning, we've got these things. So there's all these different seasons. When they're young adults, they're independent. Now they're driving and they're out. Maybe they're doing studying, but they have a job or they've got college, whatever it is. It's a different kind of energy. So now you're advising, and it's more like you become a coach rather than a parent. And then after that, it frees up. From our experience, from our 5 children, in their early 20s, it kind of frees up when they're launched, or launching. And then they become more of a friend. And I remember years ago, I had this experience. I was actually writing our Christmas letter that we send out to friends and family. And a couple sentences of what everybody did, highlights for the year and what we were looking forward to. And it occurred to me as I was writing that was the year that we learned more from our children than we taught them. And it was so profound to sit in that and just have that experience of, wow, I'm learning more from them. They're human beings now, they're launched and they're all capable adults. And I'm gaining so much from them as people, rather than pouring into them as a energy sucking child. And it was just such a wonderful thing. And it's been that way since. That was probably 10, 15 years ago. It's been that way since. That it's a give and take relationship. There's still a lot of energy. We go into growing each other and developing each other and fostering, the projects that we're doing and the impact that we're having. But it's a different relationship. So I said all of that to say everybody's working. All these demands are real. But when it comes to earning, that blame thing, like, well, you don't earn enough. Well, you spend too much. That's why it's not working. If we get rid of that blame thing or the shame thing and just work together, what are our resources? What talents do we have? What skills do we have? What can we do to get money? I've got a wonderful 3-part system that families go through. When the ends don't meet, you run out of money before the month ends. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty simple. You either earn more, spend less, or sell something. You only have 3 choices or combination among those choices when it comes to a month where there's not enough money. And for some people, it becomes a pattern. Like, we're short all the time. We're always scrambling, trying to catch up. And that's all you have to do. Earn more, spend less, or sell something.
Those are great topics. And, I appreciate the fact that you clarify that also as far as the working piece, because you're absolutely right. And I will tell you from experience that once I shifted going from corporate to doing my own business and even working from home, taking care of our little one and stuff. Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. You're always working no matter what. Yeah. So I'm glad you clarified that for sure. Yeah. And I appreciate that. So let's welcome our folks again. Thank you for joining us this morning. Make sure if you're not following Judy, follow her at judycopenbarger.com. We're going to be talking about her website, some of the amazing resources that are available there. So stick around for that in a little bit. But we are talking about married couples and money. We're focusing today on navigating those money challenges every marriage has, whether you're starting out, whether you're in it, whether you're ready to retire as a couple as well too. There's challenges everywhere. So talk to us a little bit about how appropriate planning can produce some of the marital harmony you talked about rather than the discord.
Yeah. Well, you got to talk about it. You got to have a plan. Some people just go through life rather than being proactive, they're reactive. So if something comes up or there's a conversation, they might react. They might do something. And then financially, you end up with a collection of all these things that you kind of did. You bought a little insurance over here, and then you invested in that thing with your friend over there. And then you did a little bit of 401k at work, and you end up with all the bank accounts and investments and stuff all over the place, policies and wills, whatever. But it's not really an integrated plan. So I always encourage people to think about their financial life with the outcome in mind. So think 5 years, 10 years, if you're young, 20, 30, 40 years from now, what do you want it to look like? What's the destination? Get clarity around that outcome that you want, and then you can just work backwards. Set your goals, set your objectives between now and then so you'll get that result. That's kind of the big thing. And we talked earlier about earning money a little bit. And sometimes the conflict or the challenge can come up with earning not enough, especially in early years, or when you're rebooting, you've had a financial implosion and now you're rebuilding all of that. But really saving is the key. So when you're thinking about what you want to do in the future with goals and retirement and whatever you're going to do long-term from now, you need to have a way to save money for that. I mean, investing is a whole other can of worms, but you've got to be able to take some of the money that's coming into the household and allocate it for later. And for most people, they'll say, well, I would save all day long. I love saving. I love having savings, but I just don't have enough at the end of the month. There's just not enough after I pay my bills and do my life to save. And I always answer that with, it's not a savings problem, it's a spending problem. So when you get your hands around or your head around a savings program, a savings plan, some people will call it the B word, budget. I don't like budget because it sounds like diet. It's like what I can't have. I want what I can't have. An eating plan. I want a spending plan. So you have a spending plan, and that's where it takes both of you working together. I've got couples, some don't make a lot of money, some make tons of money, more than they ever thought they would. But they still have a spending problem. They try to outspend each other. It's like a subliminal, subconscious thing they're doing. Why? Well, I'm going to get new golf clubs. Well, I'm going to get a new bike, a nice one, Well, I'm going to go take this trip. Well, I'm going to get a new outfit. And so they try to outspend each other with everything instead of working together with a long-term vision and that outcome in mind. And that's the first thing. If I was going to advise someone, I would say come together, get your goals in order. What do you both want? What are you both willing to commit to and sacrifice for long term? And it doesn't mean that you can't go to the movies or have any fun between now and then. But what are the most important goals that you have together? And work toward that.
You also mentioned, we're talking about creating this plan for harmony, and also I've heard you also mention, and I think it's very important that we bring this up as well too, is talk about the mindset, because you've talked about this in several shows, and we really, I think when it comes down to it, in some of these discussions we've had, you can't do anything until you start changing your mindset, and you've said some great things about that. So maybe if you can touch a little bit about that.
Yeah, the first thing is to come to a healthy place with money. A lot of people don't have a healthy relationship with it. They want to avoid it. When they even think about it, they kind of get the shakes. It's like, I don't want to go there, because they've had so much conflict around money. Maybe they have guilt around decisions they've made in the past that didn't work well for them. They made mistakes, financial mistakes. And maybe there's a little blame in a marriage around that. Well, you blew that when you bought that house and over leveraged, or when you invested in that thing and you and your buddy both went down, whatever it is. If you come to the relationship and are able to forgive whatever happened in the past, whatever you did, whatever your spouse did, or anybody else who's in your financial world, just let that go and start with a blank slate. And then we can get rid of the past. We learn from it, but we can't go back and change it. We get rid of that, and we just, in the present, think about what we want in the future and move forward. And moving forward means what I said before. We've got to communicate. We've got to come to it openly. We've got to be willing to compromise and share common goals. And when you do that, everything just opens up. The path opens up. The journey becomes clear. You know exactly where you're going. You're willing to do what it takes to make choices every day to get there quicker. And it's not for one of you, it's for both of you. And it's the most amazing thing to be in the front row watching couples get that right. And the harmony that shows up, the teamwork that shows up. It's like they look at each other in the meetings and go, oh, I remember why I liked you. Because now they have a common goal. They're working together again like we did way back. Right. And it's a really good season. It's a wonderful thing to be part of and facilitate and be witness to.
And I love that. And actually, it's a perfect time for us to also talk about our JudyCopenbarger.com website. So please share with our folks. This is a great website, folks, for resources. I'm going to let Judy kind of guide you a little bit through the website, because it does talk about the resources, and it'll follow by another question that I have for Judy right after that as well. So tell us about the website, Judy.
Yeah, it's a great resource. And I really built it and designed it for people like this that are like, well, I don't know where to start. I want to have that clear path. I want to have clarity for the future. I want to get rid of the conflict that comes and the shame that comes when we think about money or try to deal with it. So it's a place to just go learn. And I built it where there are stories of real people, real clients, real people in our world, some of our experiences, where you can learn what they did right in any area of finance, and then where they made mistakes, learn from their mistakes. I mean, I always say, if you can do that, you save a lot of time and headache and maybe tears, right?
Mhm.
Learn from other people. But it goes through all the pillars of finance. You've got not just investments and business like real estate and things like that, like bulls and bears and mutual funds and stocks and bonds and all that. It educates you on all of that. But it teaches you beyond that how to protect what you've grown. What about wills and trusts, all kinds of trusts? What about having the right business entity? Should I be in a joint venture with someone? Should I have a solo business, just a sole proprietorship, or should I incorporate? And if I incorporate, what kind of corporation should I have? And what state should I use to incorporate and domicile my business? So all of those things are explained. So when you go to your subject matter expert and you say, I need an insurance policy, I need a trust, I need a real estate transaction, you'll know enough to know what questions to ask. Because sometimes the intimidating part is, I don't even know where to start. I don't
Right.
know where to ask. I don't want to look dumb. I don't know anything about it, and I don't want to be taken advantage of. And I don't want to, just feel like, a fish out of water in this whole world of finance. So if you go to the website and you take a class on any course, I mean, right now for a week, you can sign up for any class you want, any courses you want for free. So it's just open. It's part of the legacy I want to leave people. There's nothing you have to do. There's no obligation. You can just go learn. So if you're thinking, we need to get our insurance in order, we need to get our estate plan in order, we need to really get our investments together and organize everything and see what we have for the future combined. Okay, he's got stuff, I've got stuff, we've got stuff. Put it all together and really lay out a plan that way. It tells you how to do that. And if you need help, where to go to get the highest probability of success and having a good advisor that will help you and not just sell you something. So all of that is right there. If you go to judycopenbarger.com, there's a green button that'll take you to the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And that's where you'll find all the videos and the classes there for you.
And Judy, I also want to make sure that you touch a little bit about this amazing book called Money, Truth, and Life, which congratulations, you're still off the charts, on Amazon and different platforms. But if you can talk a little bit about that as well, too, please.
Yeah, #1 bestseller. It's been so wonderful to hear the feedback and watch people's experience change financially. And I'm sure not everybody gives us feedback, but when they do, it's just so rewarding. It's like, that's why we did it. That's why we did it. And our team's been so great getting the book out in front of people. And if you're a Kindle person, you can go on Amazon and get it for like a price of a cup of coffee. It's not a big deal. We just want it to be out there. And what the book does is it goes through all the pillars of finance, and it gives you what I mentioned, just like the course, what you need to know, the primer level basics of what you need to know, so you know enough to get to the next level. Whether you are a billionaire or whether you're just starting out, just, got married and you're married potential, right? Or anywhere in between. It's going to have what you need to help you get to the next level. So that book has done very well. Thanks for mentioning that. But for me, it's mostly the reward that comes from people's experience. It's an experiential book. I've had couples say that they will take a chapter every night and read it out loud to each other and just go through and make it their workbook. Like, how can we do better in this area? What can we do better financially? How do we get on board and get our financial house in order? And I love that. I love that people will internalize it and just really go do better because now they know better, right? So it's available anywhere books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, obviously on Amazon. You can get a hard copy or the Kindle version there. And I hope you'll pick it up. If you haven't read it, I hope you will. And pass it along to other people in your life that you really want to make a difference for.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy. And again, folks, if you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. All of our social media links are there. And like she mentioned, there is a wealth of resources that are free. So please make sure you take advantage of that too. So in talking about resources, talking about planning, you mentioned also something very important, that's estate planning and trust. I want to see if you can talk for the next 5 minutes or so regarding estate planning and trust, because I think it's also very important when it's appropriate planning, and it's going to produce additional, not only peace of mind, but marital harmony as well too. So if you can talk about that, please.
Absolutely. Well, we talked a little about earning money, spending money, managing it. That's stuff that we do day to day. It's right now. But I think it's just as important to think about, well, what will happen in the future? What happens with us when there's a death or when there's an incapacity? And an incapacity can be temporary or permanent. I had cancer for several years. I was out of it, during all that treatment years ago. I'm fine now. But that incapacity can also be physical, or it might be mental. And again, it doesn't always last forever. But if that happened, who would be able to access my passwords, take care of business for me, get a hold of my 401k, maybe borrow money from my house for my care? Like, who could do that? So there are legal documents that are part of a comprehensive estate plan that can do that. There's powers of attorney to make medical decisions. There's powers of attorney to make financial decisions or sign for someone if they're incapacitated, whether it's temporary or forever. What happens when you're gone, your legacy? Like, what happens with your life insurance proceeds? And if you have, a second home, maybe your kids will live in the first home, but what about the second? Do we sell it? And who gets the money from that? Do we keep it? Who gets the rental income from that? And who's going to manage all that and deal with the courts if we have to do anything with the courts? So there are documents, different kinds of trusts, different kinds of business entities, wills. There are all kinds of documents that are joined together and bundled to make a comprehensive estate plan. And families that don't have that, I don't know how they sleep at night, because what if, right? And every week we hear of people, we know people that life isn't the way it was a few months ago. Somebody's passed away. Somebody has a health issue. Something's happened. And when that happens, are you prepared? Or is your family going to inherit a big mess, dealing with courts, dealing with attorneys, maybe infighting because it wasn't clear what you wanted and everybody thinks they're the favorite, right? So there are so many things that you can do that are simple to avoid all of that, family disharmony and extra costs, extra delays. There are things that you can do to put together a comprehensive estate plan. It could even be simple, but you want to get the documents that are done right. I don't recommend that you go online and fill out a form and think, oh, I've got a living trust now, I'm good. Chances are it's not going to cover all the issues in your family. Maybe you'll have it to own a property to avoid probate, maybe. But there's so many other things that happen between now and when we both die that we want to have handled. And part of our legal process when we deal with clients in our firm and with the attorneys we work with is to make sure they understand all the contingencies in life that could happen. And if that happened, how would you want things to go? If you were here to answer the question, how would you direct things? Do you want your kids to inherit everything at age 18? Well, right now there's not a lot, you might say. But if you're gone, now you have all the money in your retirement plans. You have all the death benefits in your insurances, and you have all your assets liquidated and in a pile on the counter. That's a lot of money for some people. And would your kids at age 18 on their 18th birthday be ready to manage those kind of resources? Or would it be too much too soon? And maybe they're ready. We had out of 5 kids, 2 or 3 were ready. 2 or 3 wouldn't have been at that age. Now they are. But sometimes people never are ready. And so do we want to give them too much too soon where it harms them rather than benefiting them? Or do we want to have some guidelines around distribution? And maybe you don't need it, but it's definitely worth asking about. What about remarriage? Down the road, we're in our 50s. If we are in our 70s and one of us passes away, chances are the women at that age don't remarry. Chances are the men do remarry. And do I want Bambi coming in, right, replacing me, and having all of her needs met by the money that Larry and I accumulated, and her kids benefiting from everything we've done that should go to our kids?
Yeah.
Or do we want to protect against that? Well, I want to protect against that. Not everybody does, but there are things that you can do with the right planning that a form trust isn't going to cover, or a bare, I love you, revocable living trust isn't going to cover some of these issues. There are tax protections that you can put in a trust to make sure that you're not paying too much in estate tax or capital gains tax. There are things that you can do in these documents if they're comprehensive and customized that can save you a whole lot of money and help your family out, streamlining the process down the road.
Thanks, Judy. And folks, if you're just joining us, please make sure you watch the beginning of today's show. We have discussed some really awesome things regarding navigation of money challenges in a marriage. And we just ended right now with the estate planning and trust. We've done several shows before regarding estate planning and trust, and that's maybe a future show that we can dedicate some additional time for it too. So make sure that you are following, again, Judy at judycopenbarger.com. And before we run out of time, it's my favorite part of the show. And you know what that is, right?
Yeah.
It's the Money Truth Moment Challenge. All right.
And I have a challenge for you today.
Sweet.
We were just discussing estate planning and, you know, the longer term part of the assets and our family that we're creating. And what are we going to do with all that? So I think it's a great opportunity and a great challenge for you to really revisit that. And if you have never visited it before, it's time to get your house in order that way. So 3 questions. The first question, when you're thinking about your will, your trust, your powers of attorney, your kids at 18, do they have a power of attorney for healthcare? Because now that they're adults, you can't just go to the hospital and talk to the doctor on their behalf. Crazy, right? But things like that you want to put in place. So the first question is, take pencil and paper or pen and paper and write down what's missing. My estate planning, what's missing? You know, what could we do better? What should we revisit? What should we consider putting in place? The second thing is, when I do that, how will it help us? What will be the value to us? What will be the benefit to us of putting that part of our estate plan in order, creating a trust or creating a power of attorney for our 19-year-old son who's at college, right? And then the third thing to write down is, what's my next step? Is there someone I need to call? Is there a conversation I need to have? Is there something in the file I should pull out and look at and explore? What do I need to do next? Maybe 2 or 3 items that'll help you move forward and not just have a good idea, but act on it. So you got that. Number 1, what's missing in my estate plan? How will it help to fix it? And number 3, what's my next action item? That's your challenge.
Love it. And you heard it here. Again, it's another Money Truth Moment Challenge for you guys. So make sure, if you're doing these challenges, please share them with us. Send us a message. Let us know how it's going so we can share some of your solutions to your challenges that you guys have been taking over the last several weeks and months. So Judy, thanks again for just another wonderful show. I appreciate everything that you're sharing with our group. Everybody that's just joining us as well too, remember to keep watching every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. Any last parting words? Yeah,
just consider creating your legacy every day. How do you want to be remembered, and live in that?
Excellent. Until next time, you guys, make sure that you stay tuned Tuesdays at 8 a.m. and we will see you there. Take care.